All right, last game, Saturday night, the Monster. Tennessee at Ohio State. Ohio State is 7.5-point favorites. That's a big number. I think all of us kind of wondering right now, what kind of response do we get from the Buckeyes, from Ryan Day and from Chip Kelly? Because what we saw the last time out against Michigan was just an unabridged failure. And even Chip has talked about that now in several different interviews since, or namely like one specific interview that I saw since, when he said like, hey, that was on me. I didn't get the ball to my best players in a position for them to succeed. And that's the coach's job. And he knows that. He knows that. Ryan knows that. There's no doubt. Having said that, overarching, my initial thought is if you're going to build a team to go in and give Ohio State problems, you would build a team that looks very similar to Tennessee, a team that is built rugged and deep on the defensive line, and a team that relies on running the football. That's exactly what Tennessee is. In fact, they're a top 10 rushing team, both defensively and offensively. That's what you want in this game. That's what you want. And so the pressure now is going to be on Chip Kelly, the play caller for the Buckeyes, and Ryan Day, the head coach, to make sure that they're not playing Tennessee's game. Michigan baited them into a game in the interior. They said, come on in and play in this phone booth. Ohio State went down there and did it. And guess what? It didn't work out for them. Michigan's two best players, Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham, were allowed by the game plan to totally wreck the game. You really think those two guys aren't going to learn that lesson in these 3 weeks off? You'd be crazy. You'd be crazy. I've seen them learn lessons firsthand. They learned a lesson on the defensive side against Oregon this year and changed their defensive philosophy mid-season to do a couple of things. One, get more dynamic rushing the passer, which we've seen show up in spades for them, and to get Caleb Downs more involved in every single play, which has allowed him to be one of the best players in the country. Big Ten Defensive Back of the Year. So we've seen them adjust and learn real time. We've also, in history, seen Ryan learn lessons as it relates to his offensive game plans. Now, let's put aside the Michigan thing, which seems to be just a mental block right now for this program. Let's put that aside, and let's try to learn from history a little bit. In 2019, in Ryan Day's first year as a head coach, he went out there and lost what was a gut-wrenching loss in a playoff game to Clemson, okay? Ever since then, when he's had a chance at a playoff, they've gone for broke offensively. Think about the aggressive game plans that he's put together since that Clemson loss in subsequent years when they were able to play in Rose Bowls and playoffs. In 2020, they played that same Clemson team and put 49 on them. Remember that? That was just like Justin Fields throwing bomb after bomb after bomb. That was an incredible offensive performance. In 2021, they went to the Rose Bowl and faced Utah. They put up 48 after that loss to Michigan. What did they do? Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think he had over 300 yards receiving in that game. Last year in 2022, what did they do after losing to Michigan and still making the playoff? They put 41 on Georgia. So again, the history suggests that the way they play against Michigan is not the way that they will subsequently play in their playoff game or in their bowl game. I throw last year's Cotton Bowl out because nobody played in that game. Nobody played in that. They're down there to their third quarterback. In these other instances, you got a dynamic, open, and aggressive game plan from Ohio State. And I think that's exactly what you're going to get this week as they welcome Tennessee, because it would be crazy to lean into the strengths that Tennessee is going to put on the table, namely their defensive line and their rush defense. This game needs to be played for Ohio State at tempo and in space, which is exactly what Chip Kelly is. This is what was so alarming in that game against Michigan. Exactly what he is tempo guy and space guy. So Chip just needs to be himself. I think that they're planning on rotating some of those guards. To me, it's not about the guards. You take the game out of the hands of the offensive line. You play it in space. You get all of those really dynamic playmakers the ball in space. Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Ibuka, Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, Carnell Tate. And then you just kind of let the chips fall where they may. Now, this Tennessee team is really good. I love this Tennessee team, and I've loved them most of the season, as you know. Vol fans don't like this show or me very much, but that's fine. I don't really care. What I do care about is the fact that their defensive line is really strong and they can run the rock. They can run the rock, man. Dylan Sampson is a hell of a player. Now, one thing I've been critical of them about is that they don't really have this like secondary option offensively. They like to spread the field out and run the football. But when you take that away, they don't really have an ability to like get big with personnel groups and change their game plan if needed. So if Ohio State takes away that spread run game, where are they going? Is Nico Iamaleava all of a sudden in that weather at night in the shoe going to start lighting them up throwing the football? I mean, I have my questions about that. Tennessee's offense against quality opponents this year has not been that dynamic. I know that overall some of their numbers offensively look fine, but when you look a little bit deeper and you say like, well, what do they do against the SEC? They average 25 points per game. What do they do against FBS teams with a winning record? Well, they averaged about 20 points per game. So when you take a deeper dive, the offense for Tennessee is not really all that dynamic. And if you're a Vol fan, you kind of know that that's the case. Nico has not really progressed. Right? There's been some frustrations in terms of the passing game. What you saw early in the season against poor competition is not what you have seen come to fruition throughout the SEC season. So Ohio State has to take away their run game. They have to do it. Even though the clear weakness of the Buckeye defense is the one-on-one coverage on the outside, and namely Igbinosun, who struggles with penalties, which is a huge, huge aspect of this. That's where you have to attack. Now, you would much rather attack quickly on the outside in the one-on-one than have to read down the field. And the unfortunate part for Tennessee's offense is that their passing game primarily is a downfield read off option offense passing game, which means like they're going to have option routes down the field from the wide receivers. The quarterback and the wide receiver has to be on the same page as the old Art Briles kind of Baylor system that Josh Heupel runs, which means that the quarterback needs time. When you need time against Ohio State, that's a problem. This is a huge advantage for the Buckeyes. Their pass rush should be able to get to Nico if, and this is the huge if they can stop the run. So to me, the Buckeye defense has got to go in there and just focus on Dylan Sampson, stop the run, and put the game on Nico Iamaleava, and then hopefully your pass rush shows up as they're trying to read things out down the field. That's the way I see this game playing out. Tennessee's offense, do I think that they're going to be able to all of a sudden become dynamic against Ohio State? No, I don't. In fact, when you look at what they have done against those teams, like I said, just 25 points per game in SEC play, that's 9th in the conference. They don't really have that secondary out pitch, if you will, the ability to change up, go big, do different things. Ohio State's the best defense in the country. They're the number one total defense and the number one scoring defense in America. So this will be the best defense that Tennessee has faced all year. Yes, it's a better defense than Georgia. Do you really think that Tennessee is all of a sudden on the road going to like light up Ohio State? I just have my doubts about that. I really have my doubts. And I believe that the game plan for the Buckeyes is going to be fairly dynamic on the offensive side. I think Ohio State actually covers the 7.5. I think Ohio State wins this one somewhere like, 31-20, something along those lines, and they move on. Thank you for watching the Joel Klatt Show YouTube channel. And if you liked this clip, make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel, and you can stay up to date on all of my college football coverage.